YouTube, Beef Smokehouse back here with you, and today we're going to be cooking up a beef shoulder clod, aka beef heart, beef shoulder clod, or just clod, right? From this cut, we can get about 3 or 4 different other cuts. Some of those cuts include your flat iron steak, and there are a few others. There's a part in this known as the heart. I'm going to cook this as it lies. I believe a few months ago, I believe at the end of last year, I actually did cook a flat iron steak. We treated it much like a brisket. That's how we're going to treat this. This will be cooked no different than a pork butt or brisket. All right, we got some thickness. I like that. We got a bit of high winds today here in my area. That's that under. This is going to be the non-presentation side. I have done some cleaning. Got some of that silver skin off. It's looking pretty good. Right? Now, if I was up to par with my seam butchery, then I would go ahead and part this out, and I would make several different videos that included all of the cuts you can get out of this. Since I'm not doing that, here in this video, somewhere up here in this corner, will be all the cuts that actually come from out of this. I fancy some roast beef, and that's what we're going to have. Now, I'm simply going to go down on this as a binder. It really doesn't need one, but why not? This is going to do some setting out while I get a fire ready here shortly. I'm going to be using the Weber Kettle 22-inch non-shallow version today. And for that binder, we're going with, of course, none other than Valentina's. No matter where you're at, especially here in Texas, Valentina's is a staple. Whether we're going to eat some elote, some corn in a cup, Valentina's will always make an appearance. Alright, we get that nice and rubbed in. Get those sides. What you want. So we're going to go down first with our black pepper, heavy black pepper on this. I want to build a nice bark. Real simple. Now, I was not able to source this from my area. A few days ago, I was down in Midland, Texas, and I noticed they had several different HEBs. I don't have an HEB here in the edge of Texas where I live, so guess what? I took advantage. I cannot find this. Actually, I think I found one here, and that's at the Restaurant Depot, a restaurant store closest to me. And they want way more than what HEB was charging. I think I paid 40 bucks in this. Now, the advantage. I also looked at some choice, some select, and some prime briskets. This is 11 pounds of meat for 40 bucks. It's a $39.90, I believe, was the price. The briskets paled in comparison to this. And I wouldn't have gotten as much meat from this briskets as I'm going to get from this, right? So we want to make sure we get that black pepper on the sides. This is how we're going to build our bark. We're going with diamond crystal kosher salt. Don't necessarily like taking all the time to debone turkey, what I have before, and still comes out as an awesome product, but I would rather that work be done already. All right. Heavy salt, guys. And this is an 11-pound piece of meat. Worst thing you want is for your beef to be under-salted. And even if I pull or slice, I might add a bit more salt to it. Get that patted in. Alright. Chupacabra rub has some nice texture in it, and it smells awesome. I'm a fan of all of their rubs. Smelling good already. Pound and a half per hour of cooking. So this is going to take some time. I can bump temps in that kettle up, but I probably won't do that until towards the end of this cook. Go ahead and push it through the stall. Black pepper, 16 mesh. This is also Fiesta brand. And wicking off in the form of moisture. Fat starts to run about I believe it's 170 to 180. But we need to make sure we get this salted up with some of that chupacabras seasonal. Simple. Sometimes you see me use a seasonal or seasoned salt on the entire portion of protein, or sometimes I get that top. The top only. Alright, we're going to call this nice and done. It's looking well, nice and seasoned. I have no worries about this. This is going to sit here. So why do we let meat set after we get salt derived rubs and things on them? Well, because you want that salt to activate. We know that salt is activated because when I come back, this piece of protein will look wet. It'll start leaching out moisture, and that's when I'm going to get it onto my cooker. I will bring you guys back when my fire's prepared. We'll be running with my Weber kettle, the shallow version, 22-inch. I'm also more than likely going to use my Smoke N Sear attachment. This thing, that particular piece of equipment makes use of that Weber kettle a bit more like one of these pellet smokers, in the fact that I don't have to sit by it and baby it. Maybe for the first hour or two I'm outside by it. Once I deem that it's holding temperatures that I need, then it's really, for me, set it and forget it. The only thing I'll do over the course of this cook and over the course of late night is ensure that I've got moisture in my trough, as well as making sure we've got enough charcoal briquettes to last us through the night. Stay tuned. Alright, here's how we're looking. We've got a nice moist looking shoulder clod. That's what you want. So that means that salt is activating. Worse, another mistake that a lot of people make is they'll season this up and throw it right onto the smoker. It's one of the worst things you can do. You'll notice even if you cook it, after it's been cooked, you'll still see bits of dry seasoning on the top. So to kind of remedy that, make sure that salt starts penetrating into this meat. Again, it's 11 pounds, so it's not going to make it all the way to the center. I should have done an overnight brine, but I didn't, so I am using what I have. Alright, so we're going to stay tuned. I got a fire going, and I'll bring you guys along and show you how we're going to be cooking this thing. Alright, here's how we're rolling. I've got my Smoke N Sear filled up with Kingsford Blue Bag Charcoal. In there I've got pieces of apple wood. You see one in there at the top. I've got this edge started. I've got water to the boil inside on my stove, waiting for it to come to a boil. I'm going to fill this up. We're going to get cooking. I'm going to let this come to heat through before I put that meat on. And right now that meat is actually inside tempering, right? You don't want to put a piece of ice cold meat on a hot grill. Stay tuned. Alright, we've got the shoulder clod on. See, we got a nice light blue smoke going. The temp on this pit will drop right now because we just put a piece of colder meat on. We just want to show you guys what we're working with. Nice seasoned shoulder clod. My charcoal over there, I went ahead and I got that boiling hot water in there. And we're going to let this roll. This should get me through this cook. If not, I'll come flip up the grates and be putting pieces of charcoal in there as I see fit. Stay tuned. Alright guys, it's been right at 3 hours. Let's see what we're looking like. We got some nice color coming along, but we still got a long ways to go. We've got some high winds out here stoking this fire up, so I won't be keeping this top off as long. I did spritz. I'm spritzing with water. That's it. I'll bring you guys back probably in another 2 to 3 hours. I'm going to get some rest, so I'm going to top that fire off before I go and lay down. So you can see we've got some good movement on that fire. Again, 3 hours. This probably can give me another 3 to 4 hours. But I'm going to top it off before I lay down, and I'll be coming out here periodically to check. Stay tuned. Alright, I want to show you guys where we're at. It's now the next morning. We're at a temperature of 155, going on 14 hours. Again, a big piece of meat. Barked up, looking nice. I've got to attend service this morning, so I'm probably going to leave this on here, low and slow smoking. I'll fill that water trough back up and put some more charcoal in there, and we're going to continue on. I'm probably going to pull this at about 40 more degrees, 45 more degrees, so 195 is what I'm going for slice. We're going to give it a nice long rest. This will be dinner after service. Stay tuned. Alright, I just pulled off that shoulder clod, beef shoulder clod. I want to show you guys, we had a bit of rendering going on, a lot of rendering. Some of this is water that was placed in that Smoke N Sear. And then some of it, you see right in the middle, there's fat, but there's fat all around this. That's kind of what I'm looking for before I wrap. So currently I'm getting ready to go to service. I'm going to wrap this butt up, and it is totally edible right now. However, I would just want to make sure when we slice into that center, it's not tough. And I'm almost positive it won't be. I'm going to get it wrapped up, let that carry over cooking, get to work, and then put it in my oven at its lowest setting. Stay tuned. Alright, here's our beef shoulder clod. Alright, I've got the bark I'm looking for, color I'm looking for, texture I'm looking for. This end that was directly facing the fire got a little bit overdone. However, we're gonna remedy that. I got about less than half a cup of water down in here. This piece of protein is gonna still continue to weep oil, fat, right? So we're gonna come back. There's gonna be more fat in the bottom of this pan. That's gonna help to soften up a bit of this bark as it steams, and that's what we're looking for. I'll pull this out of the oven when I return from service. Currently, I got my oven set preheating to 200 degrees, and this will stay in there for the next 2 or 3 hours. This is a low temperature by all means. Low, slow, heated rest is what you want here. And this cooked for, I believe, about 17 hours, and technically I could have still left it on my grill. I didn't. I don't want to be out and have my charcoal go out. Well, I'm not here to monitor it. So let me set you guys down and show you how I'm going to get this wrapped. Real simple process. There's nothing I've done here that you can't do. In fact, the hardest part of this was the cook itself, the time that it took, because I don't want that foil sitting directly on the top of that meat. We use a bit of salt on this protein. I don't want that reacting with this foil. So this is one way to get it done. I usually wrap using butcher paper or just aluminum foil by itself. So again, this took about 17 hours to cook. Since then, I've had it in my oven right around 165, 175. That's the lowest my oven will go. Right, so I like the bark that we've gotten. Now, I will say the outside have drawn out a bit more than I like it, and that's due to my oven not going as low as possible. I did put this in a foil pan. I covered it with foil, with a layer of parchment paper, so that foil isn't laying directly on the meat, right, reacting. So let's go ahead and get into it, because I just finished my sides. I've got some corn makshu and some herbaceous mashed potatoes that I'm going to pair with this. But I'm going to attempt to get some slices out of this. The first thing we're going to do is cut it right down the middle. Still a bit warm. It's definitely juicy. So I'm treating this like roast beef, if you will. That's kind of what it is. However, if you wanted to pull this, you'd more than likely have to take it a bit further than I did. All right, so it's still hot. You see that? All right, now. Still got a lot of moisture there. So I'm going to get some slices out of this and then set this back in the jus that's accumulated in that pan, and then hold it so it remains warm in that jus. And then we're going to have slices, and I'll probably put some gravy over it for those that want gravy. So let's see. Let's see. First, I probably should have determined which way this should be. All right, like this. So I'm going to get some nice slices off of this. Not too thick, not too thin. There's one. Still quite hot. It looks dry, but I can guarantee you that it's still quite moist, right? Even touching it, it breaks apart with ease. It's not dry, turning into cardboard. Now, earlier in this video, I spoke of this this particular piece of meat having a seam through it. There's that seam. Let's see if I can. Still quite hot, guys. There's that seam. Seam right there. It's been cooked down, broken down, and we still have a fatty layer on there. That's what I'm looking for, right? So, bulk of this meat is, you know, rather lean. However, when I put it in that, actually, let me get it up here. You guys can see that. When I put it in that pan to braise, we did not mess up the bark. Guys, if you made it this far, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Look, we got juices coming out. I didn't go all the way with that fat, making sure we still got a juicy product. The different textures is due to the different cuts in here. Now, could I have gotten a better product by butchering this meat out and cooking the part separately? More than likely, yes, but I didn't do that. This will feed a large crowd. I'm happy with the product. I love this bark. It is not gonna go to waste. Guys, until next time, Beef Smokehouse out.